we already reported for you. This first one we reported to you on the B-side episode 200 just a little bit ago on foodworldorder.com. High levels of fluoride in our drinking water is, bad. Number 2, once we allow genetically modified crops to be used, they would spread everywhere. Number 3, there are pharmaceutical drugs and cancer-causing chemicals in our drinking water. Number 4, cell phones are linked to cancer. Number 5, bisphenol A, BPA, is linked to male infertility. Number 6, prescription drugs kill large numbers of Americans every single year. Number 7, aspartame is not good for our health, and we reported to you last week that the makers of aspartame now are bringing us neotame. But number 8 on the list of conspiracy theories about health that the mainstream media has been forced to admit are actually true, that would be that many among the global elite, such as Ted Turner or Bill Gates, want to institute a global one-child policy and want to reduce the world population for the good of the environment. Those are the biowars and enviro health updates, and we get now into history mystery. And we reported just a few weeks ago for you that Lee Harvey Oswald's coffin was up for auction. But now it's the JFK ambulance up for auction. The ambulance that transported Kennedy from Andrews Air Force Base to Bethesda Naval Hospital. And if you'd like to learn more about what went down in that trip from Dallas to Andrews Air Force Base, to Bethesda Naval Hospital, and what went into the plane, and what came out of the plane, and all the stories that don't match up, you can go, of course, down the JFK rabbit hole. The related story, well, I was going to mention, if you want to learn more about that, I would say check out Dark Legacy from John Hankey, interviewed recently on CorbettReport.com. Meanwhile, JFK Library opens the largest online digitized presidential archive. Fascinating, from ComputerWorld.com. And our last note on History Mystery is a bizarre one that I wish I could read the whole story. Heilhound. Nazis dogged by mocking mutt. This would be a dog in Finland that apparently its owners had trained or somehow discovered that when they said, "Hitler, say Hitler," the dog would raise his paw. Documents have recently been discovered that apparently this pissed the Nazis off to no end. More on that from click2houston.com. And we've now made it to the murder and the mayhem. And again, my friends, there's no shortage of the things going on with the mass amounts of events that seem on some level designed to make our head spin. But fortunately, there are good folks out there in the alternative media digging through this information, and we're spread out all around the world, so there's essentially 24/7 coverage coming out all the time. So all the folks in the States, all the folks in the UK, and even folks like Corbett Report in Japan, or folks like Cryptagon.com out of New Zealand. So, coming from Cryptagon.com, Ashley W. Turton, energy lobbyist, wife of key White House aide, dies in a car fire with unusual circumstances. We'll get to that unusual update after this initial reporting from the Washington Post. The wife of a key White House aide was found dead early Monday in a sports utility vehicle that was heavily damaged by fire in the garage of the couple's Capitol Hill home, sources familiar with the incident said. The cause of her death is uncertain. Ashley W. Turton, Turton, 37 years old, an energy company lobbyist and one-time top aide to former U.S. Representative Rosa DeLauro, Democrat of Connecticut, was found dead shortly before 5 a.m. in a burning BMW, the back end of which was partly out of the garage as if the vehicle had been entering or leaving when the fire started. Authorities said Turton was the wife of Daniel A. Turton, 43, the White House's Deputy Director of Legislative Affairs for the U.S. House. As such, he is President Obama's point man on legislation moving through the House. He and Ashley Turton, who have 3 children, were a Washington power couple well known in Democratic circles. She was a lobbyist for North Carolina-based Progress Energy, which coincidentally announced a major merger with Duke Energy the day before Ashley was found dead in a car with some unusual circumstances. So we'll get that update from Politico. The leading theory is accidental, that the car crashed through the garage doors and was found on fire in the garage area, Pieringer said, adding that the incident is under joint investigation by the fire and police departments. There were some unusual circumstances, just the way the car was, low speed, significant fire, things like that. For the most part, the fire was confined to the area of origin. Some unusual circumstances in another interesting, convenient death. Ashley W. Turton, energy lobbyist, wife of key White House aide, dies in a mysterious car fire after a apparently low-speed crash. But this is why you really got to give it to Cryptagon.com. Following up on the story, another BMW exploded in Arlington 1 day and 6 miles away from the Turton car. What's going on in the district of criminals surrounding all around there? As we noted last week, and we're still not getting near the bottom, here's an update on the John P. Wheeler III murder. You know, the biowar expert and ex-Bush official who was found dead in a Delaware landfill on New Year's Day. An update from female Faust. Wheeler involved in the Barksdale Minot incident. Some of you may know that as the Rogue B-52 story from a few years ago, which again, like so many other things, source back to Darth Cheney. John P. Wheeler III involved in the Barksdale Minot incident. That would be Wheeler, the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force in the George W. Bush administration. It was the Secretary of the Air Force who discovered that Richard Cheney had set up an alternative chain of command to the nuclear weapons wing of the Air Force. In the process, 6 Minuteman missiles armed with nuclear warheads were secretly transported from Minot Air Force Base to Barksdale Air Force Base. The latter is the chief staging base for the Middle East War. The note is the missiles were advanced cruise missiles, not ACMs, not Minutemen. Another interesting connection tying in with John P. Wheeler. So, just as we've noted in so many of these other cases, the initial story may be the fantastical one, may be the sad human interest angle, whether that's John Wheeler wandering around like a disheveled homeless man carrying his shoe, or even the story of Giffords, that being the angle focused upon. And others bringing up the questions surrounding Judge John Roll as the possible main target. But again, we addressed all of that in the first hour of this episode 201, and we can't get back into it now, my friends. We must further down the news purge for our Obama-Messiah updates. An undivided State of the Union. Look out for a mixed seating stunt for the upcoming January 27th State of the Union speech. More on that from Washington Post, The Fix, and CBS News. Again, partisan rambling, and you know, longtime listeners, we take no sides in the phony left-right political paradigm.